Good morning, fourth graders. This is Miss Gettings, where you're going to be discussing how energy is transferred from one organism to the next. We're going to talk about how these organisms kind of rely on each other in our ecosystems and how they are shown in food chains. So when considering the standards, we're going to develop models of terrestrial and aquatic food chains to describe the movement of energy among producers, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and decomposers. Using information about the roles of organisms, we're going to evaluate how those roles in food chains are interconnected and communicate how the organisms are continuously able to meet their needs in a stable food web. What are we going to do? What does that really mean? You guys are going to be creating a food chain. We'll talk more of that as far as we go farther into it, but you'll identify each of your organisms in your food chain as a producer, consumer, and decomposer. You will then sort organisms using a worksheet I'm going to give you. You're going to classify them as a producer, consumer, or decomposer, just to clarify that you truly understand what exactly those three terms mean. And then we're going to write a short story using these new vocabulary words with at least 5 sentences. What materials are you going to need? So you are going to need, as far as art supplies goes, you're going to need a pen or pencil to fill out the worksheets and work on those. But you will need some type of art supplies, markers, glue, crayons, scissors, poster board. You can use pictures from the internet, magazine pictures. You can draw your pictures of your animals. But we'll go more into that as we continue throughout the lesson. So I just want you to consider this question. I don't want an answer right now, just think about it. So where do plants get their food? So first I want you to take out your WebQuest worksheet. You are going to actually need to print all 3 of these worksheets off. One of them is going to require cutting and gluing and all that, so you will need to print them off and fill them out. So at this point, you'll need to take out your WebQuest worksheet and go to this website. So when you click on the website, it is going to bring you to this. And this website is just going to tell you a little about producers, a little bit about consumers and decomposers, and just go into more detail about them. As far as your worksheet goes, it is going to look like this. This is a completed version that I have done. You are going to use the website and basically step yourself through going over what exactly plants and animals and how decomposers are classified, and just information about all 3 of these different classifications. Next, you are going to take out art supplies, any, pencil, paper, and I want y'all to draw a food chain. This is an example of a food chain over here. We've got the grasshopper eating the plant, and then the bird coming in and eating and taking energy from the grasshopper. So whenever you're thinking about this, I want y'all to just be thinking about what would happen if, for example, the bird was taken out. If there weren't any birds, how would it affect the owl? How would it affect the snake? I want y'all to be thinking about these things when you're creating your food chain. So this is just an example of my food chain that I drew. I'm not the best of artists, but I did the best that I could. So this is showing basically the corn, which is going to be your producer. It's going to be your plant. that creates their own energy. Then the energy is going to be transferred from the corn to the mouse. Then the snake is going to eat the mouse, transferring the energy from the mouse to the snake. And then so on from the snake to the owl and the owl to the fungi. Now, when the fungi is taking this energy from the animals or plants as they die and decompose, think about how these nutrients are being released back into the ground and how that benefits plants. Okay, next we are going to write a short story using your vocabulary words. These are the words that I would like you to utilize in your paragraph. I want at least 5 sentences, 5 complete sentences. So please think about what you want to write about. It can be anything in the world that you want to write about, as long as it includes these 6 vocabulary words and you use them correctly. Please do not just put definitions down. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you to utilize the words and actually apply the knowledge that you're learning. So this is an example of the short story that I did, just to give y'all a start and understand a little bit what I'm looking for. So in the cornfield, the mouse, the consumer and herbivore, ate tons of corn. As the mouse ate, the consumer and carnivore, known as the snake, ate the mouse. As the snake went into the woods, another consumer swooped in and grabbed the snake, which happened to be an owl. The owl grew old and passed away. Decomposers slowly ate away at the remains and took in the nutrients. The nutrients were then released back into the soil for rest of the corn plants. So it's just going to be any kind of story that goes along with your vocabulary words and shows that you understand the meanings. So the next activity is going to be your food chain sort worksheet. I want you to cut out each of the organisms and the definitions and classify them as a consumer, producer, and decomposer. As you complete this activity, this is a completed version that I did. So it is going to show you the definition of each producer, consumer, and decomposer, and then it's got 4 examples of each. Let's just watch a little clip as a review real quick. It is not going to have sound, but I just want y'all to think about the relationships between these organisms. So think about how the cow is relying on that grass. Ho! All right, I'm not going to play through the whole video. I just kind of wanted y'all to see the relationships between the different animals and think deeper about that. So let's come back to the question that we were thinking about. Where do plants get their food? So as we should already know, plants are getting their food from the sun, soil. They're producing their own food, right? So think about the impact that it would have if all the plants were taken out. Think about the impact that it would have on, like, for example, in the video, the cows. So I kind of just want y'all to think and about what would happen if these organisms were removed from your food chain. Look at your food chain that you drew. So for my example, what if all the corn was taken out? How would that affect the mice? How would that affect them living? They would probably die out, right? Because they don't have that food source that they depend on. So all organisms we truly depend on each other for energy. Luckily for us as humans, we eat tons of different things, but there are lots of organisms that depend strictly on specific living organisms. So when you think about that, think about the impact that has, and think about how it's so important for us to be sure and preserve our environment. Thanks for listening.